to receive an order of protection. So this
Right,
leads
right.
to abuse.
You think it'd be a good idea when we pass our immigration law, if we said that if a child is here with one parent, we have to make sure legally somehow that the other parent is okay with that, or it's
That's a tough thing for the American legal system to deal with, something that happened, a separation that occurred in the home country.
well, we wouldn't have to
Gen-
deal with the
gen-
system if we
gentleman's
insisted having
time
both
has
parents here in the
expired.
first place.
Right.
Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Beer, let me ask you, somebody asked you a question about Lake and Raleigh case, and you said that people who were criminals or felons were already prioritized. Isn't that if they're convicted?
That's right. You need a criminal conviction to be subject to mandatory detention. You don't need a criminal conviction if you are in the country illegally already, and the administration can go out and arrest that person even without a criminal conviction.
But Lake and Raleigh, I believe, was the bill we had that expanded that to people who were charged with, not convicted of misdemeanor.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't even need an arrest to be subject to mandatory detention. So there's a difference. There is discretion for ICE to go get someone who is fleeing or evading charges. But if someone has just been arrested and then they're never charged because they didn't commit the crime, it would be wrong to subject someone to mandatory imprisonment in a case where they were cleared.
So you think there should be some priorities in who we
Yes.
try to deport?
Absolutely. We need to focus on people who have violated the rights of Americans, who have committed crimes with victims. Those are the people that we need to seek justice for, not just if they're immigrants, but in general, that's what law enforcement should be focusing on.
Even on pardons, if you had people that were tried to overthrow the government in January 6th, that you should go after people that were maybe beat cops up and led the operation, as distinguished from people that were just showed up and kind of hung out.
I absolutely believe that we should focus on violent offenders and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
Is it Fabricatore?
Affirmative, sir. Yes, thank you.
Do you agree with what Mr. Beer said, that we should have priorities on who we go after?
No, sir, I do not. I believe we should focus.
DACA kids who've been in this country for maybe 20 or 25 years and been good citizens, maybe, and I've been in the military or the National Guard or something, that they should be rounded up and deported as well?
Well, the focus should be on criminals initially, but if you're violating the immigration law, you've violated the immigration law. You've violated laws of the United States. And at some point in time, that needs to come to a reckoning.
We don't have enough monies to put into this to deport everybody that's in that category, right?
I would ask that you would fund that, sir, as Congress.
Well, if we fund it, we'd probably have to cut out lots of basic programs we've got now. It's a tremendous amount of money, billions and billions of dollars.
I don't put a cost on United States citizens' lives, sir.
Okay. Maybe we can get Elon to pay for it. The election's over, and we need to find common ground. The bill that the Senate was proposing, how many Republicans were for that bill or voted for it?
I don't remember. Could be a couple.
Could be 15 or 16, couldn't it?
I don't have the answer to that.
Well, I think it was closer to 15 or 16. I don't recall exactly. But there were quite a few. What did that bill do that was good, and what we should take up now, and what was in the bill, if anything, that you think was bad?
Well, I certainly think that one of the most important reforms in that legislation was that if someone is released from U.S. custody, they're able to seek a work authorization and support themselves. What we saw in New York, and it's pointed to repeatedly about these people who are living in hotel rooms and a burden on the community, it's because they're unable to work to support themselves because they're told you're not supposed to work, you have to wait 6 months to get your work permit through the asylum process. So if the government is not going to remove someone, they're going to release them unless they've committed some serious crime or there's some other aggravating circumstance, they should be supporting themselves and contributing to the community. So that's one important thing that it did. It made some important reforms to the legal immigration process as well, increasing green card caps for the first time since 1990. That's how old our legal immigration system is. The overall framework of the legal immigration system needs to be reformed. This was a modest step in the right direction.
What we need is legislation that is thought out, not just common sense, but logical, thought out, and planned. Not where somebody might just say, what are we going to do with all these January 6 people? Well, it's going to take some time. We have to take some processes. So just F it. Just do them all. That's a man-child. We don't need a man-child in charge of our government or making policy, because that makes for mistakes. That makes for the guy who came up with the Silk Road and be the biggest drug dealer in the world to get a pardon. Needs to stop. And our immigration laws ought to be done in a logical manner with priorities. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having this hearing. I think it's really appropriate as we begin this Congress that we start with the issue that was settled in November and why the American people chose overwhelmingly Donald Trump to be our 47th president. I'm a little perplexed, though, Mr. Beer, about a statement that you made that Joe Biden made the border and the immigration system better. Nobody believes that. People in their communities, and I'm not going to ask you a question about this, but nobody believes that. And in fact, behind me, the numbers don't lie, sir. Look at the hike under the Biden administration of illegal migrants coming into this country. And he fixed the problem or made it better? I don't think so. And I would also remind you, and for people watching back home, that it didn't get better. In fact, in September of last year, Chairman Green of the Homeland Security Committee released a press release talking about a letter that they received from ICE that nearly 650,000 criminal illegal aliens were currently in ICE's non-detained docket, roaming free in the community. That means that they were picked up, processed, had their criminal backgrounds obtained by the U.S. government, and released into the interior of this country. 15,000 homicides, 20,000 sexual assaults over 100,000. Burglary, larceny, and robbery, 60,000. Traffic offenses, 126,000. Kidnappings, 3,500. The list goes on. And so nobody actually believes, sir, that the immigration system got better under Joe Biden. So real quick, Mr. Fabricatory, Mr. Newman, and Ms. Vaughn, I'm going to go down the line here and ask a couple questions. When Joe Biden terminated the Remain in Mexico policy, did that lead to a decrease in illegal immigration, sir?
No, it did not, sir.
Ms. Vaughn?
No.
With the point that I'm making that Medicaid is efficient, because I've read everything you've had to say about it. You're an influential figure. Your politics are different than mine, but I look at the merits of the arguments. And Medicaid is an efficient program that helps vulnerable people. And I want to know, do you think Medicaid is inefficient?
Well, I don't know if we're using the same definition of efficiency. And I think the challenge.
You use something that would suggest other than the point I'm making, because right now, four-person spending grew less than Medicare and private insurance over the last few years. So this program that you want to clobber, that you want to reduce, is more efficient than practically a host of other things. And I want to know what your argument is for Medicaid being inefficient, which you use to justify the cuts.
Well, I'm not sure I used efficiency as the reason to justify reforms to Medicaid. What I was referring to and have, particularly defending the budgets that President Trump sent up, is that the populations that you mentioned are no longer just the populations of Medicaid, but now we have able-bodied working adults that get a higher match. And that has taken away from the ability to have a focus on those specific populations, because you have states chasing the match instead of trying to focus on those that it was intended for and weed out improper payments and waste, fraud, and abuse. And we know that there is improper payments in Medicaid to a very high degree.
Well, what we know is that spending grew less in all these other programs, and that the analyses that have been done by objective people is dollar for dollar. This is an important way to help the poor. So let's start with that. And you haven't told me anything this morning that would suggest that you have a good argument that indicates you believe Medicare is inefficient, because the facts suggest otherwise. And let's leave the record open. You can send me anything you want. Let me ask you one other question, because my time is short. I think the distillation of the Trump economic program is to give tax breaks to all the people at the top, and it's going to be paid for by these kinds of cuts in efficient healthcare programs like Medicaid and hunger programs and the like. And I'd like to know, does that concern you at all, that we have these values that are going to help the people right at the top, at the tippy top of the top, and we're going to cut these programs like Medicaid and hunger? Are those your values? Do you think that that's something that is in line with American values? Because I think we want everybody to have a chance to get ahead.
Senator, I fully support the notion that we want everyone to get ahead, and we would not characterize our economic program that way. We think it's important to give people tax cuts at all levels. The president wants to extend those tax cuts.
But what about the vulnerable people who are going to get hurt in the process? Because no matter how you try to reframe this is an efficient program, Medicaid, that serves some of the most vulnerable people in America. It's a lifeline for them. And the people at the top are, excuse me, the people at the top are going to get the benefits. And I gather that you don't have a problem with that. And I think most Americans want a sense of fairness that you're not offering today.
Senator, I hope there's a better Medicaid program, and that Medicaid is an important program for the poor, and that they get a better health care as a result of the reforms that align the incentives so that states are doing everything they can to have the best programs that they possibly can, as opposed to expanding them unnecessarily. That hurts the federal taxpayer, and honestly, I believe hurts the people that the Medicaid program was meant for.
If you have a way to show that you can make Medicaid more efficient, because right now it is clearly meeting the objective tests of using federal dollars in a smart way, and do it without hurting them, and perhaps, heaven forbid, you would take some of the money that's going to go to tax breaks for people at the top to do it, I'll be all ears. But right now, what I see is a path to hurting many more vulnerable people, and instead the money is going to go to the people at the top, and I don't think that's right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Wyden, Mr. Vogt, thank you. Well done. For appearing before the committee today, your full statement will be included in the record. The hearing record will remain open until noon tomorrow for the submission of statements and questions. For the record delivered to the committee clerk, Senator Merkley and I met yesterday. We had a very good meeting. Our staffs are working together the best we can. I enjoyed our meeting, and I thought we had a good hearing today. And I'll speak later about the Impoundment Act at the markup. You know, I have concerns too, and I'll share those with you there. But thank you very much, Mr. Vogt. Anything? Not? Hearing's adjourned. I'm sorry. Oh, were you? I'm sorry. So I apologize.
Oh, I missed that. It's over. Okay, I guess that was it. That was a quick one. Yeah, I was late on that. Sorry about that. If I get a chance to, we will check it out again. See how I get the time. I got some stuff to do today. I thought it was, I didn't realize it started at 10 o'clock. My fault. But I'll come back and see if we can do another hearing maybe later on today if they have one. There was another one, but I'm not going to watch these immigrants. And to tell you the truth, I'm actually fed up with the way the government is actually working. So with that, I think that's it. So let's check this out. Just I don't know. We'll see. I'm doing another podcast Sunday with Janine. Well, I just heard Catherine Heritage. The news today. Heritage, I think her name is, yeah, but she's on next. She's reporting from Gitmo. And, we'll be playing some of that stuff for her. Keep you guys updated on some stuff that I know you guys don't want to pay for, to subscribe to her channel, but we'll get that settled. I subscribe to it, so I might be able to share with you what she reports. Until then, eyes wide awake, guys. I'll see you soon.